mi gente? What's going on? This is David Favela from the Talent Foundry coming to you from the beautiful campus of UCSD. We're in this gorgeous building, the Design Innovation Building, which houses the Office of Innovation and Commercialization, which is the home to the Talent Foundry.
And I'm Christiana Russell, the hostess with the mostest. And we're in the beautiful Studio 411, where we are hosting the Talent Foundry podcast.
That's right.
Hey,
We have a
David.
special guest with us.
Yeah, we do.
To help us kick off the founder interview sessions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel very
Oh my gosh. How exciting for
privileged.
you.
This is awesome.
As you
Wow.
should.
So, Marco, can you kick us off a little bit with an introduction of who you are and where you're from?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for this. Now that I'm kicking this off, that's awesome. I'm Marco Lopez. I am a digital strategist slash event marketer slash entrepreneur. I am from she's kicking me.
I'm kicking it, but I
like,
didn't mean
hurry
to. My
up.
foot's-
Okay. All right.
I'm like, hurry up. Get through this.
Where I'm from. I am from Chicago. The accent comes from Mexico. I was born in Chicago, but my mom took me to Mexico when I was at a very early age. Grew up over there until I finished preparatoria, which is high school, and then decided to go to Chicago to go to college or learn English and then go to college. And I stayed there, and a few kids later and 30 years later, after Chicago, we decided to make it to San Diego, to a warmer climate. My wife is from Colombia, from Medellin, and she decided in a very persuasive way that, she wanted to be closer to a warmer climate. So we came over here, and that's how we got to San Diego.
Smart lady.
I have to say, we came in after I finished an MBA, and Petco gave me the opportunity to come here. So, very happy to be here.
Right on. Excellent. It raises a question. Sometimes when you come from another country, because you grew up
Yeah,
in Mexico,
yeah,
but you came here to the U.S., and sometimes there's an advantage to that in that it gives you a unique perspective. You question everything. Why is it that the U.S., they do certain things a certain way? Do you think that kind of helped you get a certain perspective?
I mean, I think that I've most of my identity has been around that, right? I mean, I think I consider myself more of an immigrant than a citizen, despite the fact that I do have that privilege of having been born here and so on. But definitely, I mean, when people ask me where I'm from Mexico, and unless other people just ask me, so where are you from? Because of the accent, I'm like, from Chicago. But the accent, I'm like, it's just to give me a little bit more perspective. So I just mess with them a little bit more until they're like, but where are you really from? I'm like, where are you really from?
Right, that part. Because then there's some innuendos that's coming into there. Wow.
So anyway, yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, Marco, you're one of the original founders in the Talent Foundry.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you jumping on board. It's already been pretty incredible, but our listeners don't know exactly what your company is. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey when, where did the idea come from? Give it on a personal scale so that people can understand the entrepreneurial.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm super grateful to be part of the Talent Foundry, because I think that, what you guys are doing for our communities it's invaluable, needed, and just welcome, right? I mean, without these type of organizations, we, our communities may not have that opportunity to actually leverage and access to the resources that we need, or just knowing that our resources out there, right? So to me, being part of it is just, very, very transformational in every way. So the idea actually came in, I don't know, more than 15 years ago or so when I was when I had my agency. So actually, maybe 10 years or so ago, it started to take shape a little bit more. But every time we would do a recap for one of our clients, I had a marketing agency, mostly events, representing Coca-Cola, Target, and a few others in sponsorships. So we managed the Mexican national team for Coca-Cola. We got the U.S. national team later on to be part of the Coca-Cola sponsorships. So again, super thankful for that team because they were the first ones to give me the opportunity to launch my first company. So I always wanted to keep up with, how much, how professional they were, how sophisticated, Coca-Cola was in their and how they saw performance on everything that they invested on, when it came to marketing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give something back, but in our industry, we lack a lot of that data analytics back then. So I actually the other day I was going through my files and found my first example of how I wanted to do some type of better measurement, but just the connectivity was not there. Later on, one of my clients from Coca-Cola actually was we had an event in Miami and for Calle Ocho, and she was like, "Hey, so tomorrow I'm gonna need that recap." And I'm like, "What do you mean a recap? Like recaps take about I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks." And she's like, "Well, by then it's gonna be old news, so I need it tomorrow." First time ever, we scrambled, and it was the first time ever we needed to come to that. So we started doing quick recaps, but it's still that the information was mainly pictures and just some stuff that we were able to put in there, but not necessarily meaningful, trackable, defendable, analytics per se, right? Fast forward, and I think part of my Slumdog Millionaire moment was all the pieces coming together. I think that working for Facebook was that moment. When I was sharing with one of the teams that I was working with about the platform and how the platform, you enter your information and you see your advertisement working, you see your optimization and so on, and then once that happened, you just like click and get a recap. And I'm like, why don't we have that for event marketing?
Yeah.
So that plus other pieces, after I left Petco, I kind of said, well, I need a quick recap. What can a quick recap look like? So that's where I started the idea, and then it became into measurement and now what it is, which is a platform that evaluates and measures the impact of sponsor events.
Yeah. And for those of you out there that may not know what these sponsored events are like, can you give an example to our listeners?
Yeah.
Like, what are these soccer games?
It could be as big as the World Cup, which is, and actually I modeled it after that because we were managing the World Cup trophy tour, the actual trophy tour of FIFA. We managed that event for Coca-Cola, and we did it several times, and it went globally, right? So it went from country to country, and then at the arrival of every country, then it would go down to a few cities, and then it would go to they would use that IP to, Coca-Cola in this case, to move product, whether hospitality, whether at the supermarkets and so on, all the way down. So so that's what is modeled. But basically, a recap and the measurement of these sponsor events could be as big as that, or as small as a sampling event of a new startup, a beverage or food at Costco, or it could be a sponsor event here at UC where there's a conference, So all of those pieces, is what being sponsored. And there are event management systems that manage ticketing and so on, but we don't have common measurement. So when it comes to common measurement is what I'm trying to achieve, to work with event management systems, to work with brands. We work with agencies and with consultants that manage sponsorships and so on to really capture that information.
So you saw that there was this need, this
To go
gap
mad.
in service. I know there was a struggle bus with keeping those headphones
Keep
on.
my
We
head-
saw
yeah.
that. So you
Sorry
saw
about
that there was a need and a gap, and you saw how you were able to fill it. But how were you able to go from, I mean, because I think a lot of us that are watching or listening, we see needs all the time. Like there's like, oh, I wish this exists, or I would. But how did you leap from you seeing it to I'm going to execute it and stand it up, and now it's profitable? Like, talk to us about that journey.
Well, we're not profitable, but we hope we're gonna get there, right? No, I think uh, just first validation, right? Even when I started my first business, was it was daunting to just like, am I really gonna go through these? You know, am I leaving the security of a job to go into a business that I don't know if I'm gonna be able to? So I did get the when I had my agency, I had the opportunity to get Coca-Cola and a couple of other clients to, to gain their trust and say, yes, we're going to support you. And as a small business, as a minority business, as an expert in what you do, we're going to support you. In this case, what I did was go back to that network, to my old clients, to my friends now, right, that are colleagues and experts in the event marketing world, and started to ask, what do you think about this idea, And first, I did not write anything. I just wanted to get an idea of what they used, and what they, kind of saw, and little by little started to, I took notes obviously and started to develop it, and then I wrote it and I went back to them, and I think I've interviewed and had conversation with over 150, 200 people now for the past year and a half or two.
Customer
Just
discovery.
and yeah, and they've been. I'm just super grateful for the generosity of their time to share. And I mean, and I'm talking with, like people that are in very high positions, where their time is limited and still are very kind to share their time. So I've gotten that feedback and started to develop it. But there were some barriers along the way, and right now we're optimizing, and I think that we're getting to a very cool prototype that it's going to be working for brands, for agencies, and then the next stage will be for properties, so that they can also spit out a recap specifically for their sponsors, but only on their assets that they bought. So I know I'm getting a little technical, but it's exciting.
Well, maybe if we could reframe it for some of our listeners who may not be familiar. In a nutshell, companies that sell things, products, brands, etc., they spend a significant amount of money sponsoring events. I'm not sure if the market sizing, but it's in the billions of dollars.
Yeah, it's 2.2 trillion. I mean,
It's a huge
lot of
number.
money between the properties, between the agencies and everything. Yes.
And
So
this is in general. We're not talking about like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly that. So if you want to that's a perfect example for most people, right? They can come in and say, we're going to purchase the sponsorship of the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a property, the NFL sells that, and they only sell it to a category, right? So in this case, I think they have Procter & Gamble, and they have Pepsi is one of them. Pepsi has the Rihanna, right, that came in to sing. So it's protecting the rights of that. So they're not going to allow any other beverage company to come in. So when Pepsi comes in, they buy the sponsorship, and they use that IP of the NFL all the way through. So they use it for to sell more Pepsi at the supermarket. So if you go to a Bob's here, or in other parts of the U.S. to a supermarket, you will see all the when you enter the
Oh, the
entire
branding
displays
and
with
display,
the
yeah,
Super Bowl and
yeah.
buy these and so on, and
Oh,
that's how they
how
take it
that
all the way down.
works.
Yeah.
Or they use it for eh, yeah, for hospitality. So they bring clients that have, been supportive of the brands, and they bring them to a really cool skybox at the game.
Yes.
So all those pieces, those are different events that are
Mhm.
happening, and in that much amount of money right now, it's, a lot of people are making decision on just gut instinct.
Yeah.
And and they're like, well, how did we do? Here are the pictures. Here's, everybody talks about an ROI, but the ROI is always moving. No one really has that commonality across the board.
Yeah, so I mean, what's going on then, and you're in the industry, so you're seeing it firsthand, and you work with different companies, and you're going, okay, here are these companies trying to improve the sales of their products, investing trillions of dollars into these events, and at the end, and there are teams who put these programs, campaigns together, and they're very creative. That's kind of what their strength
Super cool.
is. They do really cool things, but the value of these things is unknown. I mean, one, it takes too long to gather the data after an event to know if it went well, did it go poorly, what did we learn, et cetera, et cetera. And then every company, and sometimes within the same company, they're not even doing it the same way. So I call it like the feedback loop, right? You call it the recap, but at the end of the day, it's really getting better at that feedback loop so that these companies can do things better the next time around. And they can stop doing the stuff that doesn't work and do more of the stuff that works better.
Exactly, to optimize right away. And really, when you see media, I mean, especially right now with performance media and digital advertising, you optimize right away. Well, it's my ad really getting to this particular audience? Do we need to expand? Do we need to change the ad a little bit to see that if it's for an awareness objective, if it's for a conversion, is it converting enough? You're making those, optimizations right away.
Yeah.
So when your ad finishes, the length of the campaign, the attribution. So attribution is, the consumer, go on Google, then did they go into Amazon first to kind of, check it out, or did they see the ad on Facebook to just an awareness, and then you connect all the pieces and then they buy, right? When it comes to event marketing, and they said, well, how do we do on event marketing after we see the entire campaign
Right.
of what we did on TV, on radio, on digital? We're like, we have pictures and we have other things. So,
A great story.
yes,
Oh,
and a great story.
it went awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what your company does. It
Yeah.
compiles all that data and then spits it out in a comprehensive way.
That
Consistent.
and consistently, and
Yeah.
that's the big piece, the consistency of it, on common measurement, but also the ability to show the contribution digitally to
Yeah.
the rest of the ecosystem of marketing, which we're
Yeah.
not doing right now.
Yeah.
That's why whenever we even go to the planning, when we were saying, we're not invited to the planning sessions. We're like, everybody connects, the media agency connects, the creative
Yeah.
agency connects, and they're like, all right, here's the
Wow.
ad campaign. And they're like, oh, are we doing PR? Are we doing event marketing? Oh, well, let's invite, when we're done, we'll just tell them what the idea is. And that's
you're
it, we're
saying bring us
executors.
in on the front end, not the
Exactly.
back end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, switching gears a little bit, Marco, this is a great example for our listeners out there. Entrepreneurialism is about innovation.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be in a variety of roles and innovate just when you see that unique perspective that you had. I was speaking to a nurse the other day about their entrepreneurial idea, and they had seen that the sensors, when you're at the hospital in the chair, and if it plugs out, there's a light. Anyways, nurses can be innovators. Anyone can be innovators. It's
Right.
really just paying attention to, is there a better way to solve this problem?
Right.
And that is essentially what you've done.
I mean, I see innovation. You see it in every place, and
Yeah.
glad that you say that, because I was in Colombia, and we, my kids were going in the seesaw, right?
Yeah.
And we call them sube y baja in Spanish
Mhm.
in Mexico. In Colombia, they call it mataculín, which is like butt killer.
Oh, this
You
is
know?
true.
So,
This
but
is true.
when I
Packaging.
took them here to a park, my kids, there's now the seesaws have like this little
Spring or
springs,
Yeah,
cushion.
it's a
and
cushion.
it's amazing. And I'm like, of course, we were kids with that, and then once we grew up, we're like, you know, that's it. It continues to be.
Yeah.
Not until recently, someone said, well, hey, I think that my kid is just, might be, getting, a bad backache, so maybe we can fix these.
Wow.
That simple innovation, I always
Yeah.
feel like it's such a dumb thing and yet
Yeah.
so important. That's how I feel about my ideas. Like, why can we just solve these now with these? I mean, because it just needed to be done.
So I'm curious. So with all of the access that you have, and I think a lot of the listeners may be listening like, wow, he's well connected. He's working with Pepsi. What is Talent Foundry able to do for you? So with all that you already had access to in the support system, the ecosystem, how is Talent Foundry able to still help and assist you?
Well, in a few ways. Well, one, connecting with you guys as a soundboard, because despite the fact that yes, I have those connections, it's still the product itself. The From a startup perspective, the journey of a startup, it's a lot more different than just thinking like I'm just going to take a product to market, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that if I was to create a beverage, I would have gone to another type of space where they could help me with other technicalities around that particular product. In this case, I think that when I saw all the pieces coming together, not only from a tech perspective, innovation, your backgrounds, I obviously did a little digging there, my homework, and on top of that, I think the accessibility to these space in the ecosystem at the university.
Yeah.
To me, all those pieces came together, and on top of that, the willingness to help, us. I don't have all the connections either from a venture capital. I don't have all the connections from those areas. I was just talking to someone on LinkedIn from Kellogg, and they're like, "Oh my God, yes, the VC world," and I'm so on. I'm like, well, despite the fact that I do have an MBA from Kellogg, I bought that. I told you I bought that membership.
Yeah.
I don't have access to those other little inside memberships.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is important.
Yeah, I agree. I think also your story is one that's really inspiring for those who may be listening as well, to understand that there's always opportunity to grow your network, but be strategic about it, because your time is valuable, right? You have a lot of opportunity to connect with people, but you were very strategic in making sure that the next connection that you made was one that was going to quantum leap you to the next level. So in thinking about that, like, what are some of the because we always talk about like how to maximize, or now everyone's saying how to 10x. But like, what are some takeaways that you would share with those that are listening that would support them in building out their business, but helping them to avoid the traps of getting sucked into the, oh, I'm gonna join this, oh, I'm gonna do this, oh, I'm gonna do that.
I think I continue to make that mistake sometimes, but I think that, it is a little bit of a domino effect, right? Connecting with you guys, and then you guys connected me to to iCorps, to do that accelerator. That in itself, having David also as a mentor there, even though I had done some of the homework, I had done it a year and a half ago. So my product has changed a lot, since then. So the validation, and even just I thought I had rigor in my validation, but just these past 5 weeks that we went through that, it brought a lot more rigor. So I actually had to backpedal in a few cases and do the homework, with more intentionality to make sure that there was a product market fit, with all these other pieces. So it's that and more, So I think right now belonging to this group, and then connecting with other co-founders, with other founders that also have other additional experiences that can, add on or that I can learn from. It's just key. So yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome to be part of this.
Well, there you go. That's exactly what the Talent Foundry is about. We have 3 C's to summarize. We consult, we connect, and we build community. And you heard it here directly from Marco. We're so excited to see where your company goes in the next coming months and years. The beautiful thing about the Talent Foundry is we're not time-based, we're success-based.
And that is the other piece that I think was it's what's moving me. I think with other accelerators, you have that time crunch that you just need to be done, and that's it. I think the accessibility to the resources, it's key, because I mean, it's not like, I was just telling you the other day, I pulled a lot from my savings to really bootstrap and everything so that we can get to a prototype. So making sure that is is being well spent, and just there's so many pieces on a business that has been super helpful. I mean, in fact, one of the piece in my presentation, or the value that I'm bringing to the industry, David helped me to summarize that, right? I mean, it was not, I could be a value creator, or or really revolutionizing the entire industry. And while I believe that I want to revolutionize the industry, right now there's a value creation on this first prototype that will evolve to that.
Yep, that was actually one of my first questions for every entrepreneur. Are you creating incremental value, or are you revolutionizing the industry you work in? And then I would say in your particular case, it is revolutionizing, because it's not being done today. And done right, it's going to provide tremendous value. And as the Internet of Things and electronics develop, the opportunity for collecting big data and insights into your customers is only going to grow. So that vision, it's a first step, but there's a vision out there that I think is frankly really exciting. I'm kind of a tech nerd, and I can just see it already, and it could be here faster than any of us can think about. I mean, that's how technology is sometimes. You're like, oh, it's coming, and oh, it's not coming. Then it's like, oh, it's here. Oh my gosh. That happened quickly. So you're part of that movement, and that's exciting.
And then I mean, kudos to Christian. I think that when we finally connected a little further, and you started explaining about all the possibilities of getting grants and access to those resources. Honestly, I had not thought of that either. I'm thinking more on the end of trying to raise money from VC, or traditionally what we've heard, right? From what's been done out there. But you open my eyes to these other sides. I'm like, okay, great. How can I capture that and tap into that piece? I mean, I don't know if I told you this little story. I connected with one of my mentors, and he's been very kind to me all this time. And I said, hey, I need to go into raise some money from friends and family, to see if I can raise I don't know, $1 million or $2 million. And he calls me right away, like, Jefe, I know your friends and family, they don't have $1 million or $2 million. So so I'm like, all right, I need to regress to Cristiano's help, to get that piece, and he's helping me a lot right now to make sure that also the deck is in a good place to do that round of funding. But I mean, it's a journey.
You know what? Something, and you all need to think about this as well. When you do, everyone does their deck, and when they look at their financials, oftentimes everything is geared towards angel investor, or friends and family, or VC, and grants are nowhere in there. And what I always tell our founders is, I want you to do a pie chart of your financials, and I want you to carve out where you see different funding sources coming from. And they'll do that, and they give it back to me. Grants are always missed. And I go, well, what about grants? And they go, I'm not a nonprofit. And I go, grants are not just for nonprofits. I have a grant actually that I'm going to be telling you about. I just got it on my desk today. So you're going to be applying for the Cox grant. What you all don't realize is a lot of these corporations are looking for programming in revolutionary technology like yours. And they would love to be on the front end of supporting it. And so to be able to apply for funding through cable companies, media companies, I mean, with what you're doing, it would be such a perfect fit for them because, again, it's allowing them to integrate technology into their systems that, like you and David shared, does not exist. So, yeah, more to come when we get offline. I'll share with you all as well. Don't you worry. I'll put some grant stuff out there as well.
Or just sparking other ideas on that too, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
we talked about the other day, we were talking about the raising funds and so on, and my my desperation of like maybe getting some customers and
Yeah.
and so on. I asked David, what about getting a coalition of just experts in my field and
Yeah.
brands that are truly vested into doing better,
Mhm.
for the industry. And he's like, yeah, there's a ton of examples of actually, companies coming together and funding, what
Yes.
is that next thing that is going to help the industry. Obviously, they're at the forefront because they're getting that initial benefit from
Yep.
it. So I did
Yeah.
connect with a couple of agencies, and
Oh,
I'm
good.
connecting with a couple of clients that can potentially do that. So whatever comes first, and
Yeah.
if they do come along, I think that we will be able to then be focused on the development of the platform as a solution,
Mhm.
rather than from a VC perspective that sometimes the profitability comes at a much faster need.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's good to hear. Because funding can be very creative. I mean, we didn't even touch on WeFunder or
Oh, yeah,
crowdfunding, and
Mhm.
so yeah. I mean, if you have a dream, if you have a good business case, if you have a prototype, if you're out there already, if you have some early adopter companies to prove your value proposition, it makes it all more likely to get the monies that you need. So that's definitely something we'll be working with Marco in the months and years to come.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Marco. We really appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
down and sharing your experience with the Talent Foundry and your entrepreneurial journey. It's quite inspiring. So again, we're the Talent Foundry. We connect. Oh, whoops, I said it wrong.
We
Consult.
consult.
We connect, and we build community.
Yes, we do. But while we're building, let's also make sure that people know how to reach you, Marco. So for those that are listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's easy, Marco at onxite.com or through our website, onxite.com. Yeah.
Excellent. And so for anyone who has some extra money burning in their pocket, taxes are around the corner. So you want to get a little bit of extra donation in there and write that off, definitely hit up our guy here. I don't think you'd be disappointed.
No, we won't. We won't
We
disappoint you.
will. So you all want to connect with the Talent Foundry, you can find us at talentfoundry.ucsd.edu. That is talentfoundry.ucsd.edu. Or
If you'd like to send us an email, talentfoundry@ucsd.edu.
yeah, well, thank you so much, Marco,
Thank you,
again
thank
for
you.
coming
Thank
and
you.
hanging out with us. And again, I'm Christiana Russell,
And I'm David Favela.
and we will see you soon on the next episode of Talent Foundry.